So yes, I'm from South Africa. I immigrated to the US in 2000. Um, I'm a very passionate scientist. I love all things environmentally related, protecting the environment, and protecting public health, meaning, keeping our customers safe, healthy, in terms of the services we provide. And I've enjoyed every bit of working for the Department of Utilities, the challenges that come along with that, including working with our customers, our ratepayers, and making sure that we're always doing the best we can in the services we provide. A little bit about utilities. Our core services are drinking water, wastewater, and storm services. And as I go through the presentation, you'll understand a little more of what that means to each of you as customers of the city. We operate under a one water concept, which is the environment provides rain and snow. We use that water to provide drinking water to you by treating it. And ultimately, that water ends up as wastewater, which eventually is released back into the environment. And through the presentation, you'll get a little more of a glimpse into how that all connects together. Um, our responsibility includes educating the public on things like water conservation, source water quality, that's the water we take in from our rivers and our wells to produce the drinking water. Flood preparedness, because we are a flood-prone city. Stormwater quality, there are water quality issues associated with stormwater. There are regulations that go along with that. And then also educating people on things like fats, oils, and grease that can cause issues for our systems. And then we're also actively engaged in customer service, both for billing reasons and also just for service-related reasons. A little bit about our department. We have a $227 million revenue for the fiscal year 2023, which is this current fiscal year. We have a $236 million capital improvement program. Capital improvement program means infrastructure, needs, rehabilitation, rebuilding, putting in new systems if it's necessary, and then also building infrastructure so we meet regulatory requirements. That $236 million is a 4-year total for 2024 through 2028. The department has about 500 employees, and those employees are split through various divisions that take care of the different services we provide. We have two operations and maintenance divisions. The first is the water division, so it's drinking water related. The second O&M division is related to stormwater and wastewater. And then other smaller divisions we have include our engineering division. They do planning and design related to all of our infrastructure. We have business services that supports our financial needs and our financial transactions. And then we have the Office of the Director and IT. That role is to provide support to the entire department to ensure that we continue to do the business we need to do. Our service area is 100 square miles of the city, which is a pretty large area. So drinking water is divided into 3 broad categories. It's the collection, so it's taking water from the rivers or getting water from wells. We treat that water to ensure that it's safe for all of you, and then we distribute that water throughout the city. Our predominant water source is our surface water. So that's the water from the rivers. About 80% of the city's water comes from those sources. We have 2 water treatment plants in the city. The first is the Sacramento River Water Treatment Plant. That's near downtown. You see our intake off of I-5. And that is Sacramento River water, which is predominantly water that comes from the north area of the state. The second water treatment plant is the EA Fairburn Water Treatment Plant. It is next to Sac State, and that takes in American River water. American River water is water that comes down from the Sierras. So it starts as snow melt, melts over time, flows down through Folsom Dam, and ultimately comes to the Fairburn Water Treatment Plant. So the Sacramento River Water Treatment Plant has an intake that looks like a dragonfly, if you've ever seen it. It's more, the dragonfly image is more evident if you look at it from an aerial view, but that picture on the left represents that. And then we have the Fairburn Water Treatment Plant, which intake you can see from the Guy West Bridge at Sac State as you're looking east towards the Watt Avenue Bridge. A water treatment process generally is a multi-step process. It includes filters and disinfection of water. The disinfection ensures that we keep the water with no bacteria so it doesn't make our customers sick. Physical particles such as sand, sediment, silt are filtered out in large tanks. And you'll see those are the flocculation tanks that you see there. And then chlorine is added, and chlorine kills pathogens such as viruses, bacteria, and protozoa, and that is what can make people sick almost immediately. Our next water source is groundwater. Groundwater represents about 20% of our drinking water. We have 28 groundwater wells throughout the city. They're located mostly in the north area of the city, but we do have our newest well system in the south area near the Cosumnes River College. These are pictures of that new facility. The left picture is of a pump, so we have to pump the water from deep in the ground all the way to the surface and then add chemicals to it before we distribute it. And this picture sort of represents that, where you see over time water infiltration from rain or snow makes its way through the ground, through the underrock. It forms a layer in an aquifer, and then we extract the water through pumping from deep down in those aquifers through a treatment process and then out into the distribution system. Our distribution system distributes water throughout the city using 3 pump stations and then 15 reservoirs. Reservoirs are storage tanks where we store water and we release water over time as the demands increase. So we're not constantly pumping water through the city system, because if we were constantly pumping throughout the city, we'd be using a lot of energy to do that. So these storage tanks help us minimize that energy use as much as we can. Our distribution pipes are about 1,600 miles of pipe. So that's a significant amount. We have to maintain those because when we have breaks, you will see gushing water coming out of the ground. We've had many instances of that happening. We've had instances where we've closed highways because there's so much of water. So our response needs to be immediate when those things happen to fix it and get it back to normal as quickly as we can. We have 5,400 pieces of mechanical equipment throughout our distribution system. So I think that gives you a little bit of perspective on how complex it is and how we have to make sure that we're monitoring everything that's going on. And we do rely on the public, all of you, to let us know when we don't have eyes on something and you see something unusual going on in the system. Let us know, because it might be something significant that we need to respond to right away. Our reservoirs, you can see some of them and some of them you can't see. So some are above ground, some are underground. These store water so that the water demand for the system is more evened out. The reservoirs help us keep our water distribution system pressurized. The pressure helps us ensure that water comes out your faucet when you need the water to come out. If there's no pressure in the system, you can open your faucet and you're probably just going to get drips coming out, which is not helpful to anyone. The most common reservoir that I think most people see is the one on I-5. It's called the Freeport Reservoir. It's the reservoir that has, right now I think it's Farm to Fork. It's a Sacramento Farm to Fork. That is a city of Sacramento drinking water reservoir. So something we do on a regular basis related to drinking water is we continuously test the drinking water to make sure that it's meeting all of the federal and state requirements, that we're not going to make people sick. And so testing's done around the clock every day of the year. So there's no rest, there's no holiday, there's no, well, nobody's here and we can't do testing. There is always testing happening. There's even online testing, which means automated testing that is happening continuously, and we gather and evaluate all of that data. We test for microbial pathogens, which can cause illness. We have 75 testing locations throughout the city where we go and we can grab samples and look at it and see what it tells us. We monitor for 120 different contaminants, including lead, arsenic, mercury. We publish the data from our testing through something called a consumer confidence report that we publish it once a year so you all can see it. We also have a drinking water quality website where you can go in and you can search all of our water quality data. If you're interested in a particular contaminant for some reason, maybe there's a news article that comes up and talks about somewhere else having a contamination issue, like PFAS is sort of the latest contaminant that a lot of people are talking about. You can go to our website and you can see what our PFAS data is within the city of Sacramento. In terms of education, we do water conservation education. Climate change is a huge thing for everybody in every industry, in every area that you can think of. For us in utilities, it is huge. It's making our water supplies less predictable on the drinking water side. There are predictions that snowpack will decrease significantly over time. And because we rely on snowmelt, if there's no snow, we're going to have less water, which means we might not have enough water for the residents of Sacramento. So we're actively engaging regionally with various entities, Regional Water Authority being one of those, undertaking studies. We get our water from the American River, so we've studied and we continue to study the American River watershed and what that impact is going to be, so we can figure out if we need to obtain additional water sources, what are those going to be? And one of the things we're doing in that regard is regionally we're working on what's called a conjunctive use program. And what that means is in wet years, when surface water is abundant, we use surface water for providing water to everyone, and we work with other agencies who predominantly have groundwater, well water. We supply them with surface water. And then in dry years, when there's not enough surface water, we use the groundwater. So we recharge in the wet years by using surface water, and then we use the groundwater in the dry years when there isn't enough surface water. But that's how we work with other agencies in the region. Sacramento has really great water rights, but that doesn't mean we take it for granted. We have to be good stewards of those rights, and we have to make sure that we work with everyone else in this region. And when I say this region, I'm talking about here in Northern California. Over time, our water rights are being questioned and under threat. However, we're doing our very best to make sure that we're protective and always working to ensure that we're using it prudently. We're making good decisions. We're not wasting water. And so that's work that we continuously do. There are state mandates that dictate that we need to reduce our water use, and we're continuously messaging those to our customers and to ensure that, again, we're demonstrating to everyone that we're doing the very best we can with the resource we have. The city has a year-round watering schedule, so you can water landscapes twice per year in the spring and summer, and only once per week in the fall and winter. It's a change back and forth. We always try to message it. We put ads out there so we can remind our customers when the change happens. And the watering day depends on your address. These requirements are in our local ordinances, so it's local law to follow those requirements. Part of our services provided by our water conservation team include indoor, outdoor rebates for different things like grass conversion, irrigation upgrades, and more. We also do free house calls where the team will come in and they'll help you assess your use within your home, including looking at water use data to advise you of improvements you can make to reduce your water use. This is a free service. You can call through 311. It gets routed to the team and they will schedule a time to come out to you. Additional work we do is, since most drinking water comes from rivers, we have to make sure that we keep the river as clean as we can. So that's that environmental impact, right? Minimizing our impact on the rivers. And since boating is a large source of pollutants, we work with the boating community to educate them. From your boat, you have wastewater that you need to discharge. How do you do it without impacting the water quality in the river? And so the education piece is what we work on. So what we do is we identify the largest factors that impact pollution, and then we work on education. Education is always the better means for getting compliance, and so those are some of the activities we engage in. The next service we provide is stormwater, and the general categories are collection, conveyance, and maintenance. The city sits in a low elevation at the bottom of a valley, so we're a bowl. And for that reason, we're flood prone. We are naturally in a floodplain. We have built-up levees that protect the city from flooding. However, what that means is we're stopping water from getting in, but when water gets in, we have to pump it out actively. So there's a lot of effort that has to go into it. We have a field of pumps that are active, and when you go through a storm like we did last January and we have power outages, a lot of those pumps cannot be operated. And that's when we are like scrambling because our ability to continue to operate and prevent the city from flooding is extremely challenged. So our stormwater system, we have two systems. We have a separated system, and that collects stormwater only. We also have a combined system, which is the older part of the city's original system, and that's focused in the downtown area. That system collects both storm and wastewater. And during rains, when there's a lot of rain coming through, it's challenging for us because all of our wastewater gets discharged to Sacramento Regional Sanitation District, which is the county agency, and they treat that. However, during rainstorms, when there's a lot of rain coming down, we're limited in how much we can send them. So the amount we can send is really a dry weather amount. So when there's rain, when there's rain, there's a lot more, and we can't send it to them because we would overwhelm their capacity to deal with it. In those instances, which is very rare, we do what we call primary treatment and then discharge to the river. When I say primary treatment, we add chlorine to kill the bacteria, and then we remove the excess chlorine and discharge to the river. Not ideal environmental impact. So that happens very rarely. We try our very best. We will pull out all stops within the system, including using some of the storage we have like McKinley Vault or Pioneer Reservoir to hold it. And that's when you start keeping your fingers crossed that the rain stops and you have time to recover and pump all that water to regional. So a little bit of complication as we deal with stormwater, but we have a lot of experienced staff who know exactly how to handle those things. These next two pictures are pictures of the storage reservoirs on the stormwater side. So the left picture is the Pioneer Reservoir in the downtown area. All it does is holds that stormwater until we can discharge it to regional. Our most recent addition is the McKinley Vault. Historically, McKinley used to flood with all that water. We installed the vault. Now, the complication with stormwater is you get 50-year storms, you get 100-year storms, you get 500-year storms. The higher you go up in the number for the years is more significant rain coming down in a short period of time. 2019, we had a 500-year storm. McKinley was new. McKinley filled up really quickly. And then it started to overflow, but not as significantly as it would have flooded if McKinley Vault wasn't there. And a lot of people don't know that nuance. The expectation is, oh, McKinley Vault is there, so nothing should be coming out. But yeah, if we have those 500-year storms, it's going to happen, unfortunately. We don't have enough money to address every kind of storm that could possibly happen. All right. So from our stormwater systems, we have 80 plus water quality flood control detention basins that help store stormwater in local areas. And those use natural processes to clean them of urban runoff. And what I mean by that is really infiltration. So the stormwater sits in a basin, and over time it slowly percolates down into the ground through the bedrock, and there's a filtration that happens through that process, which is the natural process. Our pump stations, and we call them sump stations, move stormwater wherever it needs to go. So I mentioned we're in a bowl, and when there's water in the bowl, we have to actively pump it out. So that's what those sumps do. We also have floodgates in the city that are operated manually. And when I say manually, I mean physically. During a major rainstorm, we have staff. And this is where Department of Utilities works with Public Works. We go in and people manually put these gates in. If you've ever been to Old Sacramento, I was not aware of this until I got a tour. Along the river, the restaurants that are on that side, if you look at like the Delta King, you'll see that there are these railings that are sort of like gates. Those are floodgates. So when it floods, those gates are put in place to close that entire area off to ensure that if there is water, it contains it. Yeah, I didn't know that until I got that tour, and I'm like, it's right in front of my eyes and I didn't see it. But you don't know unless you know why they're there and what's going to happen if there is flooding. And then, yeah, we also work to inform those businesses when we close the floodgates, because they cannot do their business when that's happening. Critical infrastructure maintenance. Now, we need to do year-round maintenance to help ensure that we're protecting the city from flooding. And because the rain season is the rain season when we might be challenged, when we might be flooding, we want to do the maintenance in the best time of the year. And these are requirements we have imposed by FEMA, because FEMA is the flood agency, right? When there's flooding, that's the agency that helps us respond. And we're supposed to do that to minimize the potential for flooding. Now, we do our work on maintenance during the spring and summer because it's dry. We can get in, we can look at what's going on, we can do repairs. And when I say we, I'm talking about the city of Sacramento, but I'm also talking about our flood partners, because the way the city is divided up in flood control, there's a number of different agencies that have responsibility in different areas. We all have to coordinate to ensure that we all get an opportunity during that dry season to be able to do our maintenance. And when that happens, we have to work to ensure everyone's safety when we're doing that. And we work with different entities in the city. And part of what we do is, unfortunately, a lot of times we have homeless camps on the infrastructure. And when I say the infrastructure, I'm talking about the levees. So the camps are directly on the levees. In order to do the maintenance, you cannot have people there because the work, we're bringing big pieces of equipment in to the area that could harm the people that are there. We also have to ensure that we are able to observe the condition of the levee. If there's burrowing, that kind of thing, we have to be able to see it, work to repair it. Sometimes it takes concrete injections to be able to fix some of the burrowing. So you need access to the entire area to be able to do that. So that's when we engage with the city manager's office, the city attorney's office, the Department of Community Response, to work on helping let the people in the area know what work is coming and that we need their assistance with moving for a period of time. It's not a permanent move, it's long enough to allow us to do the maintenance, and then after that, they can come back again. We do this, we communicate what our schedule is for the entire dry season, so we know exactly where we're going to different areas and when that work's gonna get done. And that's important to ensure that everyone, including homeless people, are safe, because what can happen too, obviously, when there's flooding, if we have homeless camps on the levees during floods, those homeless people are going to be harmed right away because the flood water is going through. Flood water doesn't discriminate on who we are, and so we're all at danger during those periods of time. Flood preparedness is really important. I mentioned that we are a flood-prone city, so it's important for us to all be aware of what we can do to protect ourselves and our families, our loved ones. And preparation includes having an emergency kit, making a plan for your family, or if, whoever you live with. Know where your important documents are. Know where you live and what your flood hazard is. Is it a significant hazard? Is it a minimal hazard? Because that's going to help you know how you need to respond when you're watching or listening to TV, radio, weather reports, and you're told, oh, we're going to be flooded, hazard watch. Sign up for emergency alerts. The city has an emergency alert system. Sign up for it so you get the notifications, and I recommend you sign up with the county as well. The county has that too. It's important to get those alerts as soon as they come out. You don't want to be relying on the news, and maybe you don't watch the news all the time, or you're not getting the notification to your phone. Those things are important so you know how to respond and protect yourself. Carry flood insurance, especially if you live in a flood-prone area. Most homeowners insurance does not cover flood. So if you have insurance and you think it covers flood, you better check into it, because chances are you might have to get a separate policy to be able to cover that. Even renters can benefit from flood insurance. So stormwater quality. Stormwater carries urban runoff into waterways, which essentially is contaminants. It can carry brake dust, vehicle oils, pesticides, fertilizers. And we have several permits that require us to help keep stormwater clean, because ultimately stormwater is going into the rivers. We're also required to do education to make sure that people understand how to reduce or eliminate harmful chemical runoff, including pesticides and fertilizers. And those are usually two of the biggest contaminants that we deal with. And so that educational program is really important. For wastewater, we have a collection system, we have conveyance. I spoke about our two systems, the separated system for wastewater and then the combined system. We have 42 pump stations and then 55 wastewater basins across the city, and we feed into the Sacramento County Regional Sanitation District during dry periods. And they do treatment and then discharge to the river. I mentioned Sacramento Regional County Sanitation District. They are in Elk Grove, just south of the city's border. And this picture shows the map in terms of where they're at, and that's an aerial view of their wastewater treatment plant. Further education we do is related to fats, oils, and grease. It is important not to put fats, oil, and grease down your drain, because what happens with that is It hardens when it gets cold, and it clogs pipes. And so it can be costly for you in terms of your home, but it can also be costly for the city, because if it accumulates in the city's larger pipes over time, it can cause us clogs, and we have to go in and repair it. Our customer service, we manage over 150,000 accounts, and we help people with billing and rate assistance. Our rate assistance program can help income eligible city customers pay for their city utility bills, which may include water, sewer, and garbage. Customers can save hundreds of dollars a year if they qualify. SMUD and Regional SAN also offer similar programs. So that concludes my discussion on the Department of Utilities, and that leads us to question and answers.